absolute pleasure to be here today, and I want to thank first off the folks who worked so hard to put on this conference, and thank all of y'all for being here today. My name is Ryan Anderson. I'm a sophomore here at Washington University, and throughout the past 6 months, I've been rapidly engaging with, researching, and developing AI-based systems that are aimed at improving healthcare outcomes for all. Today, I hope to offer you a glimpse into the future of our lives, the lives of our current or future children, and maybe even a glimpse into the future of mortality itself. You may be familiar with AI systems in the context of OpenAI's ChatGPT or Google's Gemini, which are large language models or LLMs, which take huge quantities of data and then streamline analysis and for further application in a rapid text output for the user. Some view these systems as robbers of human ingenuity or creative thought. Some view these systems as societally transformative that will change the way we communicate, we learn, and the way that we live. But throughout the course of this presentation, I ask you and I offer you to consider the moral, the ethical, and political implications of using this technology on a large scale. Today, I'll walk you through the past, the present, and the future applications of these technologies. To begin, naturally, I'll begin with the past. Now, this weird, stringy model thing isn't a piece of modern or abstract art. Now, this is one of the key fundamental units that keeps us alive and is currently keeping us alive right now. This protein picture is myoglobin, one of the key proteins responsible for the transportation of oxygen throughout the body. This protein is key for our survival in nature and is key for life all across the world. Now, this structure itself was originally modeled in 1962 by legendary British biochemist John Kendrick. Dr. Kendrick and his team took 12 years, a lot of whale heart, and a tremendous amount of experimentation with X-ray crystallography. Now, using his methods, across the next few decades, scientists all over the world were able to successfully model about an additional 150 protein structures. Then, with the computational revolution of the 1990s and early 2000s, scientists all over the world were able to model an additional 150,000 protein structures. Now enter AI in protein folding and protein development. A jump so big it won a Nobel Prize last year. Dr. Savas, Dr. Baker, and Dr. Jumper of Google's DeepMind developed this AI system using an AI framework that can accurately predict the folding of proteins in mere seconds. Their team took this number, 150,000 in 2021, to 200 million, and then placed these proteins in an open source database for use in research all over the world. In fact, that AlphaFold 2 paper has been cited over 32,000 times across multiple biochemical and biological research. So you may ask yourself, what is the relevance of knowing the folding and these weird bending patterns of this protein structure? Well, proteins are the key mechanisms that drive us. The folding and interaction of these proteins determines how they interact with one another. How do they form protein complexes? You may be wondering, how is this in any way relevant to our medical treatment? How could my doctor possibly use this structure in determining my best treatment plan or health outcome? Well, look no further than pharmaceutical development. Pharmaceutical development is rooted in understanding how these proteins form complexes and interact with one another. But even beyond the scope of AlphaFold 2's database, we can now create new protein structures using similar structures found in nature to change the way our body fights diseases such as cancer, change the way Alzheimer's progresses and decays the human body. But as I mentioned, this paper was released in 2021. Where are we in 2025? Now, I displayed this model as I believe it to be, showing the exponential growth of AI, especially within the past few weeks. This graph is AI's performance on a benchmark known as humanity's last exam. Now, what humanity's last exam actually is a closed source database consisting of some of the hardest questions around the world in math, chemistry, physics, some of the hardest questions known to man. Now, this database consists of 2,700 questions from over 50 different countries, from thousands of PhD level experts within those subdisciplines. Now, as we can see in about mid-2024, AI could only answer these tremendously analytical questions with about a 3 to 5% success rate. But something in just the past few weeks happens that is truly astronomical. We see a massive jump with the release of OpenAI's Deep Research. OpenAI's Deep Research is a highly analytical and highly comprehensive tool that you can use at home now. But what's so significant about OpenAI's jump is it marks an exponential progression in the way that AI models can develop themselves. Now, there's some clear amplification in this graph. The best AI model in the world only scored about a 26-27% on humanity's last exam. If I scored a 26 or 27% on a test, my poor mother would have a heart attack. And I don't think there's any AI system that could help her in the slightest yet. But as we continue to progress, you may be wondering, how are these AI models in any way relevant to medical care now? How are they being used across the world to serve me and to aid my doctors in patient care? Look no further than MRI imaging. MRI is what I would call a gold mine of data. They take hundreds and thousands of pictures of the human body for analysis and for the use in diagnoses. Specifically, the full body MRI is extremely comprehensive, but also extremely expensive. In fact, it would take a singular radiologist an extended period of time to properly analyze and break down all of the imaging data provided by that MRI. In fact, it would take a team of radiologists a significant amount of time to break down all the data that it provides, a period of time that would be unfeasible and impracticable in a medical setting. But how actually accurate are these AIs in detecting abnormalities such as a cancerous mass? Well, AI has the ability to localize abnormality, to localize and break down systems within the human body that can then assist a radiologist in making a diagnosis or making a further analysis. Now, how effective are these systems in diagnosis? Well, consider this MRI of the human brain. Now, the MRI of the human brain is most commonly ordered in incidences of suspected stroke. A radiologist, given this image, usually would determine a stroke based on characteristic patterns. But when the AI is fed the image, it can scan all of that data simultaneously. It can break it down faster and possibly provide a more accurate measurement. Now, AI in the context of stroke detection across multiple studies has displayed upwards of a 95% accuracy rate in accurately depicting stroke, or detecting stroke. Now, radiologists who were given those same data sets scored about an 88 to 89% accuracy score. So it begs the question, to what point, to what extent do I feel comfortable with an AI performing an analysis on my body? To what extent do I feel comfortable with a physician using AI technology? I could see and greatly see perceptions changing over time as this technology only progresses itself. But this is how AI is being used in the current context, in our current setting. How will AI be used in the future with technology released within just the past few years? Now, you as one person could be wondering, why I'm but one person? Why would I need a large-scale data processor to work alongside me, besides for something like medical imaging, which is so data rich? Well, you as an individual are composed of 30 trillion cells. within those cells 3 billion nucleotide-based pairs known as your genome. Now, your genome is what makes you you. It's how tall you are, what is your hair color, your sex, your race. It's what makes you you. Well, as we can already sequence the genome and get a copy of the genome, we can use large-scale data processors such as artificial intelligence systems to break down the genome, analyze the genome, and find predictive patterns. Most notably, NVIDIA's Evo 2 was trained on 9 trillion genetic base pairs. Evo 2 can accurately predict patterns of genetic cancers, but even inaccurately depict early onset Alzheimer's years before it manifests itself. Imagine your doctor telling you, well, in about 4 to 5 years, you are very likely going to be showing symptoms of early onset Alzheimer's. However, with the genomically personalized treatment plan, we can alter the progression of the disease and eventually stop or eradicate symptoms from manifesting themselves. Now, the use of genomic technology is highly controversial. To what extent do we allow editing of physical traits or removal of undesirable traits? It creates a very complex moral dilemma that I think it's important for all of us in this room to consider today. How comfortable are we with genomic modification? Do we only use it in a medical context, or does it become commercialized? Beyond genomic technology, we now see the distribution of medical infrastructure around the world using AI. And we all know LLMs, specifically ChatGPT and Google's Gemini, and their ability to take large-scale information sets and streamline a structured output to the user, which can be very beneficial in an educational sense. There are currently billions of individuals around the world that lack access to a singular primary care provider, such as a physician, nurse practitioner, or PA, that could provide them with basic life-saving medical advice, insight, and education that could completely alter their life and drastically extend their lifespan. Now, when I initially began this project, it was for the purposes and the promotion of global health equity. How do we foster a more equitable environment within our healthcare system? How do we use AI technology and the advancements in artificial intelligence to accurately respond and predict and detect the onset of diseases? I began, and I earlier mentioned within this talk that I've been actively developing technology in order to do this. And that's largely why I began so much of my research. Throughout the past 4 or so months, I've been aggressively developing an iOS mobile application which can accurately take user health data, break that down, and provides personalized medical insights. For example, the ECG on your Apple Watch, this can accurately break down the sub-data within that ECG. It can break down your heart rhythm, your beats per minute, and then take other factors such as your age, your sex, how many steps you take a day, and then use that data to provide a medical insight and a personalized medical health education treatment plan. Backed with resources from academic papers all over the world, I have relentlessly worked to make this technology private and to make it and depict the medical information provided as accurately as possible. Now, on March 28th at about 4 p.m. a week from now, I'll launch my app. I will link a QR code on the next 2 slides. But once again, it's been an absolute pleasure to be here today. I've done a ton of research for this project, but I've also made a lot of bold and auspicious claims today. Mostly, a lot of these being extremely optimistic. I'd be glad to talk with anybody here after following the presentation about where I've gathered and taken a lot of my information and data from, much less the software development process. I'm learning a ton throughout this process, but it really is just the beginning of my journey. Throughout the next few years, and even just the rest of this year, I plan to launch multiple applications that I aim to be used freely around the world. But once again, y'all, I'll have time for a few questions following the presentation, but I'm extremely thankful for all of you for being here today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. But yeah, you can visit my website or scan the QR code. You do this, but you can read a little bit more about what I'm trying to do. You can sign up for the waiting list for the application. But yeah, so yeah, I currently, just this week I registered my company within the state of Georgia, from which I can safely and then accurately manage health data and not do that as an individual. Trying to use best privacy encryption and use all the software made available to me in order to safely transport and use user health data to create a private and safe environment experience for all. Also in a liability sense, my goal is to provide medical education and to make that freely available. Provides personalized health insight based upon your general, health profile diagnosis, but it still is, very educational, very rudimentary. But I'm actively developing it, and I'll continue to work tirelessly on it until I'm satisfied. So, do any of y'all have any questions? Anything that y'all want to know more about my software development process or any of the research or figures that I gave y'all?
I was wondering if AI has created any pharmaceuticals yet?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it actually, most notably at the end of 2024, VGI 201 which is actually going into clinical trials within the next few months, is meant to rival GLP-1s like semaglutide and Ozempic, which seems to be relatively, both relatively safe and effective. It binds to, specifically it binds to receptors in the liver, the CDR3/5 receptors, which then greatly increases the metabolic process within the body and transports and converts fat to energy. It's supposedly in simulated clinical trials, which also use AI in that analysis of that data, was enough to achieve approval for human trials from this point on. So, yeah.
Going back to that graph you showed with humanity's last exam, I was wondering what you think the implications are both in the healthcare space and broader, just societally, once AI can reach 100% on this exam.
Yeah, that's a great question. This is a very limited model. Humanity's last exam, it would be truly impossible to cover all of human knowledge in a single benchmark or test, at least at this point. But when we reach 100%, that point is largely theoretical. It's known as reaching artificial general intelligence, or AGI, where a specific AI model has reached the intellectual capacity of mankind itself. From here, the AI can take all that knowledge and then engage in PhD level research, combining all disciplines, all facets of human knowledge, and exponentially progress humanity. Eventually you can extend beyond 100%, which is known as artificial superintelligence, to the point where you eventually engage in such cross-disciplinary research. You have AI models creating new fields of physics, chemistry, mathematics, creating and combining all disciplines into one science. It's very highly theoretical, and that the societal implications are, pretty massive, but it's nearly impossible to predict when we'll hit that point and what will happen when we do hit that point. Yeah.
I'm just interested if you were me, and you had students coming to you who were maybe interested in going into medicine, and it's my job to prepare them for that, and to maybe give them guidance about the best way to do this. Do you think it is my responsibility or in a student's best interest to understand the role of AI as it will be maybe up and coming in the near future in medicine? For example, if I have a student who has their heart set on being a radiologist, do I tell them, well, you better learn some more about AI technologies, or maybe you might want to think about a different career path because maybe radiology is going to sort of go by the wayside?
I think we'll begin to see the synthesization of AI and doctors working alongside one another for an extended period of time. Especially within the next 40 to 50 years, it's going to be a coherence. It's going to be a joint system between the technology and the radiologist. But specifically within the field of medicine, AI has incredible data analysis and is continuing to scale itself. However, the hardware component of it is definitely its greatest limiting factor. And by that I mean for an AI, android to possibly, do surgery or do even a rudimentary task and to have it work autonomously, we are tremendously far away from that. However, the data processing and the scalability of these machines will enable this, the coherence in the joint AI and physician-related environment that's going to best improve patient healthcare outcomes. But also, theoretically, maybe not in practice, make healthcare cheaper and make it more available for individuals around the world. So I don't think that question, in short, would need to be, addressed in that way for the next 30, 40, 50 years. We are some time from that. So, yeah. I don't see how much time we have. I have time for one more question if anybody has one. Yes, sir.
How do you think about the environmental considerations of AI? The state of Virginia is estimated to need to double its electrical output by 2038 to accommodate the number of data centers that are being built, especially in Northern Virginia. So an AI can read an MRI scan and it requires X amount of energy versus a human being can read that same MRI scan. Maybe they get a B plus and AI gets an A minus. Do you think that difference is worth the energy output and thus the environmental impact that would come with AI?
Yeah, so I would, 100% agree to that point and agree to that consideration. So currently the greatest limiting factor in the growth and progression of AI is hardware capacity. That's for why, example, NVIDIA is so highly valued right now. It's because they're producing more efficient chips and more efficient storage systems and GPUs which can run these AI systems. I am 100% in favor of regulation that eliminates overuse of electricity and resource beyond the scope of necessity. Now, in a healthcare environment, I believe that to be a necessity. I believe electricity and scalability of AI in use of those systems is crucial. However, for in other facets, such as scaling of just general large language models to be used in just general industry or energy collection or efficiency or streamlining of processes within businesses, that I would argue is less of a necessity than medical considerations. I truly don't believe you can place a limit on patient care. I believe as AI continues to develop itself, it will then enable humans to create more efficient electrical and energy systems from which then we can scale these models and scale the scope and the actions of which these models can perform. So, yeah. All right, y'all, thank you so much for joining us today. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the conference. It's been a pleasure speaking with you all. Thank you.